The transition from the college environment to university is a challenging time for students. This film documents our exploration of transition from a visit made by a group of staff from Manchester Metropolitan University to Xaverian Sixth Form College in Manchester. Staff were invited to observe teaching in a variety of subject areas, and students were invited to talk about their experiences of learning at college and their expectations of learning at university. We wanted to find out more about the important differences between college and university. Were there aspects of the transition that we could address to help students feel confident and ready to learn in their new setting?
Well, the reason why I went on the school visit is because I've been teaching level 4, so first year students, for a number of years now, and for a while I've felt there's something that we don't know, or I don't know about them, and I don't know what experiences they go through before, what they're learning before, and there seems to be some sort of mismatch in terms of what I expect them to be able to know, and the skills I would expect them to have, and what they come in with is quite different, and also the way we teach them may be quite different from what they're used to, and their expectations are different. So I thought it would be a great opportunity to find out a bit more about that.
I think the classes are a lot smaller. They go slower. I think it's not that much difference, except maybe not as much preparation. So that's what I expect, that they get very similar to university, as in they get lecture and then they get lots and lots of practice questions, but on a very smaller class and a whiteboard where the teacher can write.
We had a really good talk which explained quite a lot about the college, because I knew it was there, having lived in that area at some point as a student myself, but I knew nothing whatsoever about exactly what went on, even though I'd been to talk to some of their sixth formers about teaching as a career. So it was great to have that context, and I was impressed with what they're doing, what they're achieving.
Each member of staff has got a particular way in which they manage a lesson, which is not necessarily standard across the whole department. So a typical lesson would include referring back to preparation activities, a recap on a previous lesson. Then they would outline the detail of what was going to be covered in the session, and then the session itself would be very heavily based on content but very structured in terms of process. The staff indicated that they'd like more opportunity for free-ranging discussion and group work to develop research skills, but they felt that the A-level specifications were so huge that meant that their lessons were very much content-driven.
I think the scale is something that was immediately apparent, and in my department we don't have particularly large classes as is necessitated in other bits of the university, but we may have 60, 80, 100 odd in a lecture, say, for one part of the contact time that we have level 4 students, and that's vastly different from having 15, 20 in a room.
My classes they're not big sizes, which probably helps with learning better. Spanish, for example, we have a language lab, so we can use the technology to help us get more vocab, sort out any problems we have. The teachers are always there on hand as well, so if we feel like we are struggling with anything, we have Wednesday afternoons free, so the teachers can help us with that, even if it's just a small problem. That helps.
Well, in Xaverian, they're very happy to speak to you whenever you want to. You know, you tell them when you're free, they tell you when they're free, and you meet up. With my English teacher, we met up. I think it was every Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock, because I had free then. And he'd see me every week, every Tuesday morning, and we'd go through texts. I'd ask questions, he'd answer them, and he was very happy to do that.
On an individual
basis, because I think their kind of motto is like, if you put the effort in, we don't mind helping you.
We don't really have textbooks as such, but like the teachers make their own booklets for with film, like we have a booklet for each section.
Yeah, they're like workbooks, so it's a book, it's got all the information in it.
Yeah.
So for that topic, and you have a different one for each topic. For different subjects it's different, but You can use outside textbooks from the library because the library provide loads, but the content's always different in each one. So my method, it would be use the ones that the teachers give you because the whole spec is in there anyway.
In sociology, they've developed workbooks on specific topics which focus on exam themes, and they're set in essay questions, and the booklet scaffolds the process of researching and writing and structuring the essay.
We get a lot of resources that obviously as college students we have to make our own resources. We have to put the effort in to get our grades, but the college do offer a lot of assistance with that as well.
When it comes to homework, you're very independent when it comes to that. You know, they'll have a go at you once or twice, but if you don't do it, you know, that's your problem because it's your life, it's your career, they can't do everything for you. But when it comes to assessments, they try to help you as much as they can.
Mine aren't lenient that much. Very strict about deadlines and stuff like that. Like if say in my English class, if you've not done your coursework, then you get chased up by the pastoral manager. You know, if you've just missed the deadline or something like that, Mr. Lyons will come like the day after. Well, for me anyway.
The teacher described having normally no more than 15 minutes explanation of key themes, which I think there were 1 hour sessions. That's a quarter of the session is the teacher talk at the beginning, after which she felt the attention span would have dropped off significantly. Then it's structured activities that develop the writing around the essay structure that's provided and broken down into component parts.
The BTEC experience, the assessment tasks, the teaching related to them were extremely broken down into small bite-sized chunks.
The assessment pattern and expectations of the students are carefully spelled out from the beginning and throughout their sixth form studies. When we asked students what they thought would be expected of them at university, there were clear themes that students kept returning to.
Independence.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because I think that college do give you a lot of help, but you won't get that specific help at university. And that's something that you've got to take on board, and you need to put everything aside, I reckon.
We've got to try and manage our money, make sure we don't run out of money for the accommodation, make sure, we're strict with ourselves in every aspect, because if we don't control our money, if we don't control our work, it's not going to go well.
I expect that I'm paying a lot more money than that I would have been if my lecturers would have gone to university. So as a result of that, I'm expecting a lot more. I'm not expecting them to, so like you say, if they don't know my name, I wouldn't be happy with that. Or if they don't know, it's got to be, it's really got to be personal, and they've got to really perform, just because simply we are paying more money. It's not our fault. They've already got their education, but also I think definitely being stimulated is massive, because that is basically one of the only reasons that I'm going to university. But then I also think they need to take into account that just because we're legally adults, one day you go from being a child to an adult, it's ridiculous to think that then everything's going to go away, all the things that you do when you're a child. So it's not going to go away. You still need developing. You still need help and guidance from these people. Yeah. So I think that's definitely expecting too much too quickly. Yeah. I think that would be quite.
I don't expect him to throw me in the deep end when I go in.
Yeah, so we are. At the end of the day, we're only just.
Yeah, it's completely different, isn't it?
Just adult, yeah.
So we have found out that student concerns include: how much support will I get? How will I react to the freedoms and responsibilities that are new to me? And sometimes, how will I get value for money from this experience? When staff design learning for university courses, the emphasis is often on the structure and content of the course, how the students are expected to engage with this, how many hours a week are timetabled, and so on.
Well, we had discussions with colleagues who came along afterwards, so that was a nice opportunity to reflect on what we'd seen in the separate faculties as well. In the department, we've been discussing how do we improve our personal tutoring system? Because this is one thing that some of the students in the college told us. They have these personal support sessions where the tutor is there after the class, and you just come into that classroom and ask them if you haven't understood anything, haven't understood a particular thing, or maybe haven't understood anything, or just need support to get your grades up. And we as academic staff, well, I thought, yeah, we do that as well. We have office hours, we have tutorial times, but then hardly anyone shows up, or it's always the same students that show up. So I don't know, how do we get them to take up these opportunities more?
Well, I think they have much more time for independent study here. So in the law school, they have 12 hours timetabled per week in a usual week, and they're expected to put in about another 16 to 20 hours of work on their own, preparing for their workshops and or assessments. So I think that's quite a big shift of emphasis from FE to university.
The other thing that I was very surprised with yesterday is how focused they were, and that they seemed to be working independently. They were very responsive in classes where the teacher was asking questions, so they were paying attention, they were writing. But the week we went in was also revision week, just before exams or before coursework was due, so they were very focused in that way.
I think it confirmed what I really know, which is that there is a real gap between the here is your book, it is going to tell you what you need to know and I am going to take you through it, approach at college, and the here is your outline of what we're going to do, you're going to read around this subject and research it for yourself approach of what happens at university.
It's very different to how it's like at university. I think what I noticed is that the students are very dependent on the teachers. So it's quite a big leap going from today, this is what we're going to cover, you have to do the homework, I'll mark it tomorrow, give you feedback, and throughout the year to having essentially 1 or 2 assignments where you get feedback and the rest is on the students.
Perhaps it is important that we recognise the need for an independent learner to be able to set their own goals. It may feel to the student as if the nurturing system where someone is always pushing you to succeed has disappeared. How can we help students cope with the transition from managed learner to self-managing learner?
I think what we've got to recognise is it's probably easier for us as a university of diverse courses and strategies to make changes to what we do at the very early stages of level 4 than it is easier for colleges to make changes, because they feel that for the period of time they have the students, they're under a lot of pressure to teach to a very heavy A-level syllabus. But I think what we've got to be very wary of is identifying, saying that at the college they do X, Y and Z and this is poor teaching or it's poor preparation, because I think they are quite rightly doing what they feel is appropriate and necessary at that stage. I think there's lots of things we can do to prepare students to arrive at university ready to learn. I think we've got to be clearer for staff in the colleges about the differences between what they do on A-levels and B-Techs and what happens at the university. But I think the main responsibility should lie with the level 4 staff at the university to make sure that they're not making assumptions that students just get it, that they understand it, and what's expected of them. I think we actually have to teach them independent learning skills in a very structured, proactive way and embed that into a very extended induction process. Makes the transition from the very structured learning to the far less structured learning and that we manage students' expectations around things like feedback, assessment, target setting and so on. Because I think the thing that surprised me in this particular instance of learning at college is that the jump to university is greater than I thought it would be.